Welcome back. Ever feel like you can't keep your eyes open at work? Always feel like you need to take a nap, never have enough energy? My next guest says this may be symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome, a condition that affects as many as 4 million people in the United States. He's Toby Morrison, founder and director of CFS Health, and he joins me from London. Toby, thank you for joining us. So let's just start with, I hear that you missed most of high school due to illness. First of all, how did you know that it was chronic fatigue syndrome and not just you were tired?
Yeah, well, it's funny, you think you're just tired at the time, just like most people with chronic fatigue syndrome, you think it's just, normal tiredness, or you've got the flu, or you run down, so you rest and you rest some more, and eventually, things don't get better, and then you're on the path to, trying to get diagnosed, which is quite difficult. So it's kind of a long process to get diagnosed. It usually takes 6 months to exclude any other serious illness, and then, your symptoms have to persist for that long in order to be diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome or ME.
So why is it so difficult to diagnose chronic fatigue syndrome?
Yeah, because it's so multidisciplinary. So, there's so many factors with chronic fatigue syndrome. It's not just tiredness. You can't just sleep chronic fatigue syndrome off. It's, this long-lasting fatigue that persists for months on end. People are bedbound from this, and you get severe symptoms with this. So there's, muscle pain, flu-like symptoms, sore throat, swollen glands, muscle aches and pains, dizziness, cognitive memory loss. There's lots of different factors, and so doctors have to kind of have an oversee of, I guess, these host of symptoms and these range of illnesses to determine whether or not someone has chronic fatigue syndrome.
So it seems to me that a lot of these symptoms can be anything else, and that's what confuses people. And then I guess the CDC stepped in as well, and they have their own list of symptoms that you need to have for 6 months or more?
Yeah, correct, and you're exactly spot on. That's the hardest part is getting diagnosed. There's a lot of people out there who can't get diagnosed or can't get the right specific help because they just can't find the right person to help them or make them realise that they do have a serious illness.
So once you're diagnosed and once you realize that these multitude of symptoms are not anything else and they are chronic fatigue, what do you do next?
Once you are diagnosed, then the most important thing is to get an intervention, treatment plan, so in order to stabilise your health and manage your health and then progress it back to normality and get some daily function back in your life. So, the starting point is obviously getting back to some kind of routine, and unfortunately if you sleep too much or rest too much or do nothing, the body will just decondition, and other health problems can persist if you don't get on top of it early on.
In your book, I found it very interesting that you name basically 3 major things that you need to do to help yourself get out of the rut of chronic fatigue: diet, exercise, and what you named as being very important was acceptance, a mental attitude. Let's start with diet. What was the most important thing that you found? Because you were so young, you were 16 years old, and for 3 years you suffered with this. It disrupted your entire life. And then you found a doctor in a hospital in Melbourne who actually helped you understand what was happening and to get you on this right path. So let's get other people on the right path. Your diet.
Yeah, absolutely. Diet is huge, and it's so overmissed by the most important things to do with getting your energy back, and just getting that fuel back in your body. And food is fuel. So obviously, if you eat crap, you feel crap. And one of the things that I'm really big on is refueling your body and your energy system so that you can have the energy to actually recover, long term.
And then you said exercise was very important. Not too much, not too little. That some people could overdo it and some people could underdo it, and you just don't get any benefit from either of that.
Absolutely. It's all about rebuilding your strength and stamina over time to get back to normality and daily function. And that necessarily doesn't mean formal exercise to start with. I've got a lot of patients who are bedbound and literally just being able to have daily function around the house, i.e. doing chores and things like that. The other problem is if you do too little, your muscles decondition and extra health problems do occur. And I guess that's what happened to me for 2 years. I was so deconditioned that I could barely get out of bed or even walk from my bedroom to the bathroom, which was only about 5 metres.
Well, and then that leads us into acceptance, and that is you have to accept that you can't do the things that you did before, and a good mental attitude about that helps you to basically reboot your system and start again.
Yeah, and acceptance is the hardest part, you know, but once you can accept exactly where you're at with your current situation and circumstances, then you can really focus on the now, and you know, I guess that's what I do, you know, or did with myself and obviously with my patients now is, you know, let's work with what we've got, and let's improve that from where we can, because you know, we know if we look too far in the future, you know, it creates anxiety, it creates stress, and if we look too far down the past, you know, that causes upset as well. So if we can focus on the now and actually, you know, do something specific for us that we can handle without detrimenting our health, which is what I call baseline, then we can improve on that.
Well, I thought your book was very interesting, and I really appreciate you being up late to talk with us, and now you can go to bed.
Thanks, Carol.